Last year, a lot of my plans were turned upside down, and I experienced a great deal of sadness, often missing many of my friends enormously, and grieving the parting and unexpected loss of connection with some loved ones. It was also very disorienting. I had to be doggedly persistent in adjusting and rearranging my plans given the circumstances. Honestly, there's just been so much to process sometimes with my emotions, relationships, plans, and preparations, and a noisy as hell ego, very much rooted in that inferiority complex that Spencer talked about, if I'm being honest. It's made me realize I have to take things one day at a time, and that I have a lot of growing to do. That's why it's my tremendous pleasure to share with you the perspectives of someone I know who also had their plans for the next several years or more tossed and turned about by greater forces and power beyond her control. The following interview was shot in the fall with a good friend of mine named Meg. Meg is a missionary who lived in Ireland for many years while working with an organization called YWAM. She is one of the few close friends I have from the US who has lived abroad for a long time, and I really appreciate many of her personal qualities, such as her enthusiasm, passion, energetic and hard-working lifestyle, and a generally gregarious or spirited disposition. I think you will enjoy listening to Meg very much, and I think it is one of the best I've recorded so far regarding the location and audio. As always, I'm really grateful to have people like Meg in my life, reminding me of some of my own values, and providing a great example of the perspective I would like to nourish regarding circumstances in my life. Also, Meg recently had a birthday. So, congratulations and happy birthday, Meg. Consider this my birthday present, and I hope I actually get to see you before the next one. Cheers.
I'm a 23-year-old, 5'4" girl from Baltimore
Hey.
who was homeschooled through all of high school, all of the schools, and then lived in Europe for 90% of my adult life for the past 4 years, and then suddenly am plopped back in my hometown Baltimore for the plague. Ooh, I really don't want to give like a generic answer, but in one word, Jesus. But I guess in a vaguely more extensive answer is like, because I believe in Jesus, because I believe in Christ, I believe that we were designed with purpose and we were designed for life. And I love that. I think that's exciting. And so then I want to live my life telling people that there's hope and purpose, that they aren't just here for no apparent reason, that they matter, that somebody loves them, that there's hope in its simplest version. Well, okay, so if I were to identify with like being an American, I would say my drive, like being a Christian, so I'm like a missionary by trade, that's like my job. It doesn't support my like American agenda, which is like to like become more successful and to therefore accumulate more. Doesn't fit my missionary lifestyle, which is I don't really want a lot of stuff and I don't really want to accumulate. I actually kind of just want to be where I am, and like little is kind of enough is enough, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
If I were to identify with like maybe Christian culture, my life is still weird because instead of like fitting a rigid religious rules, it's kind of like, actually I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna meet different people, there's a spiritual aspect to it that leads that. And so it doesn't always fit that religious box where it's like it doesn't fit the Catholic, the Presbyterian, the Mormon, the whatever rules. In Ireland, being a missionary was really weird because everybody's religious, just because of the Troubles, which was a conflict of religions. And so the fact that I didn't pick one or the other was bizarre because that wasn't an option for them. You have to pick one or the other. In fact, I said, I don't pick Catholicism, I don't pick Protestantism, I'm picking Christ. Was bizarre. So because I believe in a creator, I believe that we were designed with purpose. And so, like, on like a smaller, detail-oriented scale, like, I really like art. I like creating things. And so I want to use that to then communicate that people are made with purpose. So that's kind of multifaceted there. It's like, I want to communicate that people are made with purpose because I believe I was made with purpose. And I think all of those purposes are different and actually meant to work together. And so I want to communicate hope. I really think depression is kind of a heavy thing in the world, and it's becoming a heavier thing and a more broadly, less understood, but more broadly known. And so I think describing and explaining that there is purpose to life, that like your sadness isn't all there is more, and that you are made on purpose and that there is reason for your life is something everybody needs to hear, that there's hope. And so my purpose is that I want to communicate that to people, especially people who've never heard it before, especially people who think they were forgotten and have no point. Like, as a missionary or in people in religious circles think that like, oh, you have to go to Africa, you need to go to the third world countries, you need to go to where there's like poverty. Well, the hobsnobs and like the richity rich and people are doing really well, and then the middle class have purpose too. They're important, and pretty much everybody overlooks them because they're like working class or because they're doing well financially or physically, like they have material things. I'm like, actually, your soul matters. There's a word I have in my head. I can't quite get it. It's like accountability.
Okay.
And responsibility. What is the word I'm looking for?
Integrity?
Thank you. Integrity. That was the word.
Yeah, okay.
I think integrity is like one of those essential. I think that's so good to know that someone is consistent and has integrity. Where you're like, I know whether I'm looking at you or not. You are who you are. You have integrity. So which would kind of hand in hand with honesty. Like, you are who you are. And I think somebody who believes in purpose. Like, there are people who are like, oh, I'm going to live for my own whatever, but people who believe in like working for something. Does that make people who have drive. Like, I believe in having drive. I believe in like working towards hope and like maybe not so much like hippie love, but like like believing in loving people well. It's like taking care of people. Like I guess working for the mutual good. Possibly the way that I contribute value is by communicating value. Is like I would say my life was worth it if pretty much everyone in my circle, any life that I touched, they knew that they had value. That would be how I contribute. Like, letting people know that there's a purpose, importance. And like another way of creating value and another way of communicating that people have value is like always leaving the places that you were better than how you found them. So like any area you were in, once again, the things in my life that I get the opportunity to touch in my life were left in a better condition than when I found them. Treating people better, treating stuff better, treating the world, the earth better, things like that. Like, for example, when I originally got back to Baltimore, the plague had happened, so the world was ending. And I was supposed to land at a friend's house. Basically, all my plans had avalanched and disappeared, evaporated. So instead of just going, oh my gosh, my whole life's over, everything I wanted, all my plans, I went, okay, I'm stuck in my parents' house. I have nothing, I have no job. I had a job, so I have no job now, no plans. everything's kind of to the wayside, I was like, okay, well, I got to do something. I'm not going to sit around and twiddle my thumbs and feel sorry for myself. And so I started working with some of my friends who are part of the organization I work for, and we spent every single day organizing people to make lunches, and then we would take those lunches out to our friends and neighbors on the streets and bring them food and like bring them hygiene products and like ask them what they needed, like what their needs weren't being met, and we were asking, what are your needs, so that we can meet those needs. Not, don't let us assume what they are, but let us ask you, and then let's find somebody, let's connect you with somebody who can meet that need. You're hungry? Okay, well, we've got food. So we send it off to families who are stuck at home. We would, to respect COVID rules, we would leave like lunch products on their porches, and we'd have them assemble them for us and leave like little notes just saying like, you matter, have like kids write pictures, just like something a little uplifting. And then we'd come and pick them up the next day and then take them out. We would do easily 300 sandwiches a day. And we go to like kind of the same location so that people could communicate to each other that, oh, these people are bringing us food. And so they would come kind of to where we were, and we would do our best to spread as far as we could. And we had a couple different vans that would go around, and we would pray with people. We'd have conversations. It was like, it felt like in the Bible they talk about the lepers, how they like, everybody would avoid them because if you interacted with them, you'd die. Well, we had a real life, current day plague going on, so nobody was interacting with anybody. And we said, we're just going to trust that what happens, happens, and you matter, and you need somebody who can hear you. A lot of people have not just physical illnesses, but mental illnesses, so when they're left alone, they really, it diminishes their well-being. And so being able to just sit there and have a humanizing conversation with a person. Partly, I have no desire to like sit still. I really don't want to just like couch potato my life out. Like that would be really upsetting to me. I really have a lot of energy and want to do something. But it's also that sense of like, you know when people watch a really good movie and they're like, oh my gosh, I want everybody to watch this movie. It's my favorite thing. You have a good thing, so you want to share a good thing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have purpose. Like I believe that people were made, once again, I believe that people were made with purpose. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this great thing. Oh my gosh, dare I be that person. I know there's good news, so I want to share the good news. But like literally that. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I know this amazing thing and I want other people to know the amazing thing. So I'm like very motivated to tell people, if they'll ever sit still and listen, where I'm like, let me tell you this very exciting thing I know. So, yeah. I feel like I've got this thing that makes everything worth it. Like it even makes the sad, you know, it makes those like really depressing moments, those really sad things, it makes them seem worth it. And I'm like, I want everybody to know that. I'm like, even when you're sad, even when things are falling apart, when people are dying and sick and there are plagues, it's worth it. There's a purpose. And I'm like, people should know that. It makes everything seem really okay. And I love that. It brings the eternal peace, you know? Everybody feels good inside, and we want that. I'm very visual as a person, so I'm definitely like, if I've, sounds so sappy, but like if I see like beautiful pieces of art or something that's really creative, where it's like, I saw somebody make their railing look like people running, and it's like so simple and silly, but I'm like, oh my god, it makes me want to go and do something like that. I'm like, that's so cool, that's amazing. Like creativity, I guess, inspires me, where I watch people do something, or like there was a system that's broken and then they switch the system so it works perfectly, where like people use their heads and they make a creative way of making things work, or they find a creative way to look at the world, and then they can somehow make you be able to see that way that they see the world. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Short answer is people suck. People really suck sometimes. And so that basically the different ways that people suck has definitely impacted my life. I've definitely had a handful of relationships, and the more relationships you have, I think the more likely you end up with a couple of bad ones. And so that, I've had a couple bad ones, and that definitely has been, had a huge impact on my life in different ways. I definitely didn't grow up with much, and that had a huge impact on my life and the way that I viewed the world, and definitely the way that I started to orient my life of like initially wanting to work towards stuff because we never had stuff, and then grew out of that as I got older and I realized stuff is really not that important. I guess it's events. Like I've had big events in my life. Like my mom had cancer and I thought she was going to die, and that was very upsetting,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah. Yeah. We'll go with that. I think if I go off of what we were just talking about, like deepest parts of pain in your life, I think learning to like let go of that pain, like going through the process of forgiveness, where it's like I'm not gonna just live with this pain and shame in my life, where it's like definitely in my circles, the more people you date, it definitely made people look really poorly at me, where it's like, ooh, wow, like you've dated so many people, like you must be a certain way, and that definitely created a lot of shame in my life. So that forgiveness, like letting go of that, going, you know what, people have hurt me and that sucks, but I can't hold those past actions against them forever. I can't. It'll eat me up and kill me. And letting those things go, and actually coming to people and going, you know what, I realize that I probably have hurt you too, and I'm so sorry for how I've impacted your life, because I know you've impacted mine. That definitely helped me flourish in life. Letting go of that and going, I just can't hold on to pain and shame forever. And then also realizing I don't need to live my life to accumulate, I guess. I don't need to become of greater status. I don't need to be something for somebody else. I can actually just be me, and that I'm enough. That has caused me to flourish in my life. Yeah. Like, I'm working really hard to be the best example I can be. I'm an oldest sibling, and so I was told my whole life, like, they're gonna look up to you, so you better act right. And it used to feel like a weight, and now I realize it's a privilege, where I'm like, actually, I want to be the best version of me. One, for me, that's great for me, but also because then when people see you living your life really well, like they want that. And I'm like, I want people to see it and go, ooh, what do you got? And I'm like, I've got the good thing. But I guess it's those constant little things. It's like doing the dishes for my host, the house that's hosting me, or like being able to take my sister to the train before when she goes back to school, or like my boyfriend gets sad sometimes, and so I'll like use DoorDash and like send him snacks, and like just those little things where it's like it's not I can't change people's lives, but I can make those little moments matter. Yeah, so I guess taking advantage of those little moments all the time.
Meg emphasized her belief that people were designed with purpose and for life. And even though everyone's purpose is different, there's a sort of mysterious harmony and beauty to it all. This perspective supports her desire to communicate a message of love and hope, that people matter and that there is more to this life than things like materialism and sadness. This is the purpose Meg identified for herself. Her core values are integrity and honesty. She also mentioned living life with a purpose and saying that drive and working towards something are important. So I would say intentionality and conscientiousness are also core values. And lastly, loving and taking care of people and working for the mutual good. What Meg says about contributing value by communicating to other people that they are valuable reminds me of Spencer's assertion that everyone has inherent worth. Meg is clearly motivated by her energy and an inherent drive to put it to good use, and more specifically, by a desire to share the good news that in spite of things like sadness, depression, and disease, life is worth it, which is an idea she has personally benefited from and is excited about. She mentions being primarily inspired visually, as well as by other people's creativity in general. Personally, the most impactful statement for me that Meg shared was her response to the questions about suffering and growth. She said that letting go of pain and shame through forgiveness and realizing she doesn't need to accumulate things or increase her status are important ways she has grown. Because of this process, Meg realized she just needs to be herself, or as she put it, I'm enough. I don't know about you, but letting go of pain and shame, forgiving others, and reminding myself that I'm enough are all things that I find myself needing to embrace. Lastly, Meg is pursuing meaning in her life by recognizing more frequently that within the context of her family, relationships, and work, it is both important and a great opportunity to live her life as an example for others and take advantage of the little moments in the process. Thoughts for food. Do you agree or disagree that life or existence has an inherent purpose? And if you agree, are there other reasons for this belief than faith and religion? If you believe that every human being has inherent value, then how do you affirm this with your words, actions, or choices? What are some previous concepts and beliefs about yourself or expectations you've let go of that have helped you to grow? Thank you so much for your time, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed this interview and getting to know a bit about Meg. A quick update. I'm currently located in the city of Split, and in about one more month, I will probably be headed to another nearby country in the Baltics. I don't really know what the spring or rest of the year has in store for me, but just know that if you're listening, I'm probably missing you terribly and thinking of some shared memories. So, please don't be a stranger. Go deep, go wide, be present and thrive. I love you.